Hello, story lovers. Tonight, we're diving into a tale of passion, secrets, and choices that could change everything. Hearts will be broken, love will be tested, and every twist will leave you on the edge of your seat.
Apps.
Comment below where you're watching from, and if this story moves you, hit like, subscribe. Share it with someone who loves a powerful love story, and tap the bell so you never miss the next thrilling chapter. Ready? Let's begin. Victoria Sterling pressed her forehead against the cold marble of her bathroom counter. Her emerald dress wrinkled from hours of crying. The penthouse around her felt like a tomb, every family photo and trophy mocking the ruins of her 15-year marriage. Mrs. Sterling? The voice belonged to Marcus Kane, James's business partner. Standing in her doorway with an expression she'd never seen before, pity mixed with something darker. You're here to defend him. Save your breath, she whispered, not lifting her head. I'm not. His footsteps approached slowly. I'm here because you need to know the truth about what James has been doing. Victoria finally looked up, meeting his intense gray eyes in the mirror. Marcus had always been the quiet one at company events, watching everything with those calculating eyes while James played the charming host. What truth? That my husband has been screwing his secretary for 8 months? I figured that out at dinner. It's not just Rachel. Marcus's voice carried a weight that made her stomach clench. James has been embezzling from client accounts to fund his lifestyle. The penthouse, the cars, Rachel's apartment, all of it built on stolen money. The words hit her like ice water. You're lying. I have the financial records, Victoria. He's been using your signature on documents, making it look like you're complicit. Marcus pulled out a manila envelope. The FBI is building a case. They think you're involved. Victoria's legs gave out, and she sank to the bathroom floor, the marble cold against her skin. My children? God, my children. That's why I'm here. Marcus knelt beside her, his presence unexpectedly steadying. I can help you disappear before the indictments come down. But we have to move tonight. She stared at him, this man she barely knew, offering her a lifeline. Why would you help me? For a moment, his composed mask slipped, revealing something raw and vulnerable. Because I know what it's like to lose everything to someone you trusted. Outside, thunder rolled across Manhattan as if the city itself was mourning her shattered life. Victoria looked at the envelope in Marcus's hands, knowing that opening it would change everything forever. If I run, they'll think I'm guilty. If you stay, you'll go to prison for crimes you didn't commit. His hand touched hers, warm and steady. Trust me. The word trust felt foreign on her tongue. But as sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer, Victoria realized she was out of choices. The safe house sat on the edge of nowhere. Montana, surrounded by mountains that scraped the belly of storm clouds. Victoria stared out the window. At the alien landscape, her designer heels replaced by borrowed boots. Her identity reduced to a fake driver's license that read Sarah Mitchell. Drink this. Marcus set a mug of coffee beside her, his own hand shaking slightly. 3 days of driving had stripped away his polished exterior, revealing stubble and tired eyes that made him look younger, more human. My children think I'm dead. Her voice was hollow. The news said I died in a car accident fleeing the country. It was the only way to keep them safe from what's coming. Marcus sat across from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Mixed with exhaustion. James will use them as pawns if he knows you're alive. Victoria's laugh was bitter. So I become a ghost to save them from their father's crimes. Your father-in-law orchestrated this whole thing. Marcus leaned forward, intensity burning in his gray eyes. Sterling Investments is just a front for money laundering. Richard Sterling has been washing cartel money for years. And James was his perfect son, too greedy and stupid to ask questions. The revelation hit her like a physical blow. You've known this whole time, been gathering evidence for 2 years, trying to build a case that would bring them all down. His jaw clenched. I lost my sister to an overdose from drugs bought. With their dirty money, this is personal. Victoria studied his face, seeing the pain he'd kept hidden behind corporate smiles and business suits. You used me. Got close to James through me. At first, yes. His admission was quiet, honest. but watching you sacrifice yourself for him year after year, watching him destroy your spirit piece by piece, it became about more than revenge. Thunder shook the small cabin as rain lashed the windows. Victoria felt something shift between them, a dangerous awareness of how alone they were, how their shared trauma was weaving them together. What happens now? Now we disappear completely. New identities, new lives. Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out 2 passports. I have enough evidence to destroy Sterling Investments from the inside, but it'll take time. Victoria opened her new passport, staring at the face that looked like her but belonged to someone else. And then we make them pay for what they've taken from us. The power flickered, plunging them into darkness. In the sudden intimacy of the storm-wrapped cabin, Victoria felt Marcus's hand find hers in the dark. There's something else, he whispered, his voice rough with an emotion she couldn't name. Something I should have told you before we ran. Asterisk. 5 years later, Victoria stood in her glass-walled office on the 40th floor of her tech company's headquarters, watching the Seattle skyline blur in the rain. Sterling Digital had grown from a startup in her garage to a billion-dollar empire, built on encrypted communication software that governments and corporations paid premium prices to secure. Ms. Mitchell, her assistant's voice crackled through. The intercom, your 4 o'clock is here. Victoria's blood turned to ice. She knew that voice from the outer office, knew it better than her own heartbeat. She turned slowly as Marcus Kane walked through her door, 5 years of success having sharpened him into something more dangerous than the man who'd saved her. Hello, Sarah. His smile was predatory now, all traces of the vulnerable man from Montana erased, or should I say Victoria Sterling. How did you find me? Her voice remained steady, despite the panic clawing at her chest. I never lost you. Marcus closed the door behind him with deliberate care. Did you really think I'd let my greatest asset disappear without keeping tabs? The word asset hit her like a slap. All of this, the rescue, the fake death, the new identity, it was all planned, every detail. He moved closer, his presence filling the space between them. I needed someone with intimate knowledge of Sterling Investments and the intelligence to build something worthy of taking them down. You exceeded every expectation. Victoria felt her carefully constructed world tilting. My sister. The overdose. Was any of it real? Maya was real. Her death was real. But she wasn't my sister. His gray eyes were cold now, all warmth gone. She was my partner in business and in life. James's operation killed her, and I've spent 7 years orchestrating the perfect revenge. The betrayal cut deeper than James's affair, deeper than anything she'd felt before. I loved you, I know. His voice softened for just a moment, a crack in his armor. That wasn't supposed to happen. Victoria moved to her desk, her fingers hovering over the panic button that would bring security. What do you want? Tomorrow, Sterling Investments goes public with their biggest deal ever. A merger that will clean $50 billion in cartel money and make your ex-husband one of the most powerful men in America. Marcus pulled out a tablet showing her financial documents that made her stomach drop. Unless their computer systems suffer a catastrophic breach tonight. Her encryption software, built into Sterling's new security system, had a back door that only she could access. You want me to destroy them? I want you to help me finish what we started. He stepped closer, and she could smell his familiar cologne mixed with something darker. Unless you'd prefer I call the FBI and tell them where Victoria Sterling has been hiding, you bastard. The words came out broken, raw with the pain of his betrayal. Yes, his hand reached toward her face, then stopped. But I'm the bastard. Who made you into this? Who gave you the power to choose your own revenge? Outside her window, the city lights began to flicker on as darkness fell. Victoria stared at the man she'd thought she loved. The man who'd orchestrated her entire new life, and realized she was facing the most important decision of her existence. There's one more thing, Marcus said quietly. Your children, they're not safe. The photograph Marcus slid across her desk hit Victoria like a physical blow. Tommy and Emma, now 17, walking out of their Manhattan prep school, laughing with friends. They'd grown beautiful, strong, unaware their dead mother was watching them from 3,000 miles away. James is planning to use them as collateral in tomorrow's deal, Marcus said, his voice eerily calm. The cartels want insurance that the Sterling family won't betray them. Your children's lives are that insurance. Victoria's hands trembled as she traced their faces on the glossy paper. You're lying. Even James wouldn't risk his own children. Your ex's band is desperate. The FBI has been closing in, and this merger is his only way out. He's promised the cartels access to political connections through the children's future marriages, their trust funds as money laundering vehicles. Marcus leaned against her desk. They're not his children anymore, Victoria. They're assets. The words shattered something inside her chest. 5 years of building walls, of forcing herself not to think about the children she'd abandoned to save them, crumbled in an instant. What do you want from me? Use your back door to crash their systems during tomorrow's signing? The deal dies. The cartels lose $50 billion, and James loses his protection. His gray eyes held hers. The crash has to look like it came from inside Sterling Investments. Someone has to take the fall. Understanding dawned like cold water in her veins. You want me to frame someone? I want you to frame James. Marcus pulled out another tablet showing her financial records. Plant evidence that he's been skimming from the cartel money. Make it look like he tried to steal from them and destroy the evidence. They'll kill him. Yes. A single word hung between them like a death sentence. Victoria stared at the man she'd shared her bed with, her fears with, her desperate hope, for a future beyond revenge. And if I refuse? Then tomorrow, your children become permanent fixtures in a cartel family structure. They'll never be free, never be safe, and they'll never know their mother died trying to save them. Victoria moved to her window, pressing her palm against the cold glass. Below, the city pulsed with life, millions of people living their small dramas, unaware of the war being fought in corporate boardrooms and encrypted servers. There's another way, she said finally. I crash their systems, frame James, but I also destroy everything. The merger, the money, Sterling Investments, all of it that would take down innocent employees, pension funds, legitimate investors. But it would free my children. She turned to face him, and Marcus saw something in her eyes that made him step back. And it would destroy you too. For the first time since he'd walked into her office, Marcus looked uncertain. Victoria? Real name is Sarah Mitchell now. Victoria Sterling died 5 years ago, and I'm done being your weapon. She moved toward her desk, her finger hovering over her keyboard. I'm going to save my children, but not by becoming like you. If you do this, you'll lose everything you've built. I've lost everything before. I survived it once. Her fingers began to type, executing commands that would unravel 7 years of planning. Besides, I learned from the best. Marcus reached for her, but she'd already hit enter. Around them, servers began to hum as her software awakened, ready to tear down an empire. You don't understand what you've done, he whispered. I understand perfectly. Victoria turned to face him one last time, her green eyes blazing with the fire that had built an empire. I just chose my children over revenge, something you never could. The lights in her office flickered as her program began its work. And somewhere across the continent, alarms started to sound in a building that bore her former name. 6 months later, Victoria sat in a small cafe in Portland, her auburn hair now silver, her designer suits replaced by jeans and a worn leather jacket. The news played silently on the television above the counter, showing footage of FBI agents leading James Sterling away in handcuffs. Mom? The voice made her heart stop. She turned slowly to see Emma standing in the doorway, older than her. 17 years, her green eyes reflecting a mixture of hope and fury that Victoria recognized as her own. Tommy's outside. He wasn't sure he was ready to see you yet. Emma slid into the booth across from her, keeping her distance. We know what really happened. About Dad, about the money, about why you had to disappear. Victoria's hands trembled around her coffee cup. How? Marcus Kane. Before the FBI arrested him, he made sure we knew the truth. He said it was the least he owed you. Emma's voice was steady, but tears traced lines down her cheeks. We thought you were dead for 5 years. I was dead. Sarah Mitchell is who I am now. Sarah Mitchell destroyed her entire company to save us. Sarah Mitchell brought down a cartel operation and a corrupt investment firm. Sarah Mitchell gave up billions of dollars and her freedom to protect two kids she hadn't seen in 5 years. Emma reached across the table, her fingers barely touching Victoria's. "But you're still our mother." Through the window, Victoria could see Tommy leaning against a car, his father's stubborn jaw set in a line she knew meant he was fighting tears. At 17, he was already taller than James had been, but his eyes held a gentleness his father had never possessed. The FBI agent who handled our case said, "You could have escaped, gone somewhere they'd never find you. But you stayed in the country, made it easy for them to track you down after everything fell apart." Emma's voice cracked. Victoria smiled for the first time in months, a real smile that reached her eyes. "Running away from the people you love isn't living. It's just surviving." The door chimed as Tommy finally entered, his steps hesitant. He stopped at their table, looking down at the mother who'd sacrificed everything for them. "Are you coming home?" he asked, his voice breaking on the last word. "I don't have a home anymore, sweetheart, but I have you." Victoria stood, her arms opening, and for the first time in 5 years, her children ran to her. Outside, federal agents waited to escort her to minimum security prison, where she would serve 2 years for financial crimes before being released to a world that no longer contains sterling investments, cartel money, or Marcus Kane. But in this moment, holding her children while they cried and laughed and whispered forgiveness into her hair, Victoria Sterling had everything that mattered. She had learned that sometimes the greatest victory isn't revenge. Sometimes it's choosing love over hatred, sacrifice over selfishness, and truth over the comfortable lies that keep us trapped in lives too small for our hearts. The future stretched ahead of them, uncertain, but theirs two right together. And, for the first time in 7 years, Victoria Sterling was exactly where she belonged. The end.